Hey guys, Chris with Hikes. Welcome back. If you're new to the channel, this is a channel for beginner backpackers. And being for beginner backpackers, today we're going to do some fundamentals and talk about how to use your backpacking stove. So let's get right into it. Okay guys, so I've got everything I need here. Stove, fuel, pot, and some water. So starting out, just know that a lot of these backpacking stoves are going to be similar but have little differences. This is one I got on Amazon years ago for probably about 10 bucks. Still works great. And we're going to use this as an example. Now, if you're using something like a Jetboil, it's going to be similar on how this all goes together and how it works, but that all-in-one system is a little bit different. And if you want to see that one a little better, right up here, there's an old video I made that includes that. But for now, we're going to use this little stove here. This will be similar to something you get, especially if you're a beginner. And they're pretty straightforward. Each one is going to have this area where the gas comes out and the flame comes out. Some of them are going to have this little igniter switch. And if it doesn't, you're going to use a lighter or matches. And it's good to have those along. Sometimes these fail. You're going to have a knob that is going to control the valve and how much gas goes through. And then you're going to have some fins that everything rests on. So, starting out, you're going to take your stove and you're going to unfold it. Now, this stove is held together by this little knob, and you want to make sure before you do anything else that that knob is off. So just like a garden spigot, turn it to the right to make sure it's off all the way. All right. Now from there, I'm going to put this on my fuel canister before I unfold it, just because it's more compact, a little easier to manage. So you're going to use fuel for these stoves, made specifically for these stoves. You're going to find these in sporting goods stores, REI. They're an isobutane propane mix. They come in a couple of sizes, but these little canisters are made for these stoves. All right, so if you're not sure when you're buying them, just ask. All right, so these usually have a little cap on them. Pull the cap off, and you've got some little threads here, and those threads are going to match up with the bottom of your backpacking stove. All right, so we've made sure that it's turned off, and we're just going to screw this on. Match up the threads, screw it on, make sure it's tight, don't reef on it, but definitely nice and snug. You're generally going to hear a little hiss of gas. That's normal. Don't freak out about that. All right. And now this is together. And some of these come with little stands to help stabilize these, but honestly, there's enough surface area here. I rarely, if ever, use those. So now we're all put together and we're ready to use it. Now you're going to want to find a flat spot. I'm using a table because it's wet and nasty out. So, but usually I'll just put this on the ground somewhere where there's no combustible material around it. So in the dirt, on rock, find a nice even spot, and then we can unfold this. So this particular stove has 4 fins, and these just turn and fold out. And once I go all the way, I have 4 different areas that are going to support my pot. So this one, these little fins, we fold them out, and that gives us the surface for our pot. All right. It's assumed that you're going to be boiling water. Most people use backpacking meals, and if you're making coffee, things like that, you can cook on these. But just to keep it simple, we're assuming you have a a dehydrated meal, and you're just going to add water to that. So really what we're trying to do is boil water here. So before I ever turn this on, I want to make sure I've got water in my pot. Otherwise, I'm wasting time, I'm wasting gas. I don't want necessarily to have this pot on here burning without water in it. So we're just going to add some water here. And most of the cook pots you're going to have are going to have measurements, so you can figure out how much water to put in there for your backpacking meals. If it doesn't, you know, you can use something that actually has measurements on it, or you can just wing it. So we're going to add some water in here. And the other thing I would say before you even get started lighting this is, if there's foldable handles on your pot, fold those out first, because they're definitely something that gets hot. If it's folded out, it's not up against the hottest part, and so you're less likely to burn yourself. So I've got my water, got my stove put together, and now I'm ready to light this. Now for me, I like to turn this up just a little bit to where I can hear the gas, and then I'm going to try to light it. If you turn it up all the way, a lot of times it won't light just because there's so much air moving. It's dramatic, but it's also safer. So we're just going to start slow. And in this case, I have this little piezo lighter that's built in. This causes a spark. If that's what you're using and you try several times and it doesn't light, typically I'll turn off the gas and give it a minute, just for the gas to clear, and try it again. Again, you can use a lighter or matches, and that's generally what I do, but we're just going to turn this up a little bit until we can hear it. There we go. And one click, we're going. So from there, I'm going to put my pot on here. We want to make sure that that's nice and level, because it's easy for these to fall over. And now I'm going to turn it up, and it's going to get loud. Putting your lid on makes it boil faster. You probably know this from home. So now we're just boiling. One of the things that can happen is this can blow out if it's really windy. So sometimes it's helpful to put this near some kind of a windbreak. You can also create a windbreak out of foil. You can use your sit pad, put it around there on the wind side. Because if it's really windy, it's going to take longer to boil and it may blow out. So now we're just going to wait for this to boil. And once you see it start to steam, you're going to be pretty close to boiling. You're also going to see it move around a little bit as the bubbles go. And yeah, we got a good boil here. So at this time, I'm going to turn off the gas all the way. So now our flame is out. There's no gas coming out here. And now we're going to pour our water into our meal or our coffee cup, whatever we're using. And this is going to get hot. So I usually use a buff as basically a pot holder. You can use a hat, you can use a sleeve, you can use a bandana, whatever. And so you want to be careful when you're grabbing this off of here. All right. And this has handles out here. Also has this bail handle. And most of these pots are going to be similar, but so. Also, if you don't have a wooden top like this one, that little lid is going to get heavy, or hot, sorry, as well. So, picking it up, not burning myself, we're just going to pour it in to this Nalgene bottle. And then we're done. And if you have a Nalgene bottle, which I generally don't because they're heavy, You can boil water, put this in here, put it in with your sleeping bag if it's cold at night. Keeps you nice and warm. Little bonus tip there. So this is gonna stay hot for a little bit. If you have a titanium pot, it's gonna cool off a lot faster than, say, aluminum. But right now, this is titanium. It's just warm to the touch. But yeah, just be careful. And now we're all done. What you're going to find is now your stove is hot because there's been flame there, and your gas is cold. And you know, there's signs to that, but that's normal, so don't be alarmed if this is super cold. It's supposed to be. And then really that's really how to use your backpacking stove. Now when you're finished, give this some time to cool off, and then you're just going to reverse the process and fold it back in on itself. I usually put the fins in first because they sort of bunch up if you don't. And we've got the gas off. Make sure of that. And then just reverse the process. We're going to unscrew this. You may hear a little bit of gas escape. Again, that's normal. And usually if I've got the cap, I'll put that back on there. These are not likely to leak in your pack, but you know, it's always good to be safe. But yeah, just make sure this is cooled off completely. If you're using the case it came in, goes right back in there. So pretty straightforward. It's something you can generally figure out. But you know, a lot of people haven't done this before, and it would suck to get out there, try something for the first time, and you know, have questions or concerns and not know what you're doing. So fundamentals, because this is for beginners. A couple of other things to remember though, while you're out there: do not do this in your tent. Okay. If this were to fall over, you're going to get hot water on yourself. You may burn down your tent. You may soak your sleeping bag. And most importantly, you might die from carbon monoxide. So don't do this in your tent. A lot of people cook in their vegetables, especially if it's raining. And I've done that, but I also leave the door open so that's all that carbon monoxide is going to escape. And if I knock it over, it's away from, you know, my tent walls, and it's also not going to spill onto something that shouldn't be wet, and I'm less likely to get burned. So if possible, cook outside your tent. And again, make sure you're on flat ground. Nothing worse than boiling water and having the whole stove fall over and having to start from scratch, especially if you're somewhere where there's not a lot of water. If you guys have any questions, please leave them below. I'm happy to answer those. For the more experienced backpackers watching this, I'm sure you have tips, tricks, thoughts, and ideas. And if you leave those below in the comments, that's super helpful for people who have questions. I always appreciate those. Thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you next time.